Come check out how we liked Guest Hollow's Junior Geography and Cultures curriculum. These are some of the books we used. We're going to deep dive. I'm going to give you an inside peek and all of our tips. Hey guys, it's Abby from Homeschool with Moxie, and today I wanted to give you a proper review that I promised I would be bringing you, and that is for Guest Hollow's Junior Geography and Cultures curriculum. So we have been using this for well over half of a school year now with our 6th grader, and I wanted to give you an inside peek because this is a unique type of curriculum, and many of you may not be familiar with the style that they present the information in. So I wanted to give you the pros, the cons, the tips for navigating it, an actual peek into how we used it, what it looked like. And so I hope this review is really helpful for you. So when we were approaching 6th grade, we thought, we've done history, we've done all sorts of histories throughout the elementary years, and we decided to do geography with our 6th grader. Now, she is our 5th kid. In the previous years, her brothers would do everything, all these subjects like social studies or history or geography. We would do them together mainly. And now she's almost like an only child because the next kid we have in our homeschool is mainly doing dual enrollment. He's in 11th grade. And then my other kids have graduated. So I've gone from 5 kids where I was used to doing a lot together with them to just a high schooler and a 6th grader. It's a really different dynamic. So I think that plays into how we did Guest Hollow's geography course. I think it would have been different for us had we done it 10 years ago with at least 4 kids using it. And I'll get into some of those specifics. So I really do think the stage you are in your homeschool, the age of your kids, how many kids you're doing this with, are they all close in age? Are they really spread out? I think a lot of those factors are going to play into whether it's easy to use, whether the time is worth it for you, whether you like it, whether it's too much work. Like all of those things actually do play a role in this. And so I will get into some of those specifics, but that is how we're approaching geography. It honestly looked different than what we had done before, maybe a little more enjoyable because it's living book based. It's like a buffet, and I'm going to get into that, the way they lay it out and how that could be challenging for some of you, how it could be refreshing for some of you. So you just need to know what you're getting when you use Guest Hollow's Junior Geography and Culture. So let's jump into some specifics. All right, so let me talk a little bit about the challenges of using a curriculum like Guest Hollow. So what is the format of this curriculum? What am I talking about? When you purchase Guest Hollow Junior Geography and Cultures curriculum, you will not get a textbook. You will not get something formally printed out for you that you follow every day. You're basically getting a digital copy of a plan. And this plan goes week by week where you're studying different countries or different regions of the world. So one week you might be studying Western Europe. And everything they give you in that plan is like a buffet, like where you walk up to the table and you decide, I want a little of this, a little of that. I'm going to skip this. It doesn't fit with what I want today. And you're going to do that with the homeschool curriculum. So they will give you everything from videos to living books to arts and crafts and games online to memorize the countries. All of these things, you could use everything to study Western Europe, or you could use a couple things. And you can pick and choose depending on the time you have, your budget, how many different things you want to be doing in a day or a week, the learning style of your kids, the style of your homeschool, the strengths and weaknesses of your kids, their interest level. All of these things go into deciding how you're going to use this curriculum. So it's a buffet. You choose. It's an eclectic mix of ways you could learn about the content that week. And so there are challenges to this type of approach. Now, there are ways to overcome them, but you do need to know the challenges. So number one is going to be overwhelm. There are just a lot of choices, and you may look at this 2-page spreadsheet for a week and say, this is insane. And it might overwhelm some of you. So that's what you need to know ahead of time before you pick up this curriculum, that there's a lot of choices and they're not all meant to be used. So you have to kind of pick and choose and decide what's best for you guys. It could also feel a little bit like it's lacking cohesion because it's not like a really polished, packaged, here is exactly what to do this week. you are picking and choosing, and it's obviously coming from a video from YouTube, and you're reading this book over here, and then you're doing this recipe from this book. Like, it can feel a little bit like it's lacking that cohesion. That might not bother some of you, but some of you that's really going to bother you, so you need to know about it ahead of time. Another thing is that surprised me was that it takes a little bit more planning than I was used to. At this point in 6th grade, I'm used to my kids being pretty independent, or like I said, when I was homeschooling 4 kids together, I kind of understood I was going to have to think ahead, plan it out a little bit, but I was getting 4 kids done with that amount of planning. Now, with 1 kid at that level, I don't feel like I should be putting as much planning in as I did with 4 kids. So it really surprised me how I felt like I had to do a little bit more planning than I wanted to. Now, that's just because I have to go through the choices, right? There's so many things. I have to actually decide as the parent what we're doing that week. And I guess I wasn't expecting it. I should have obviously known that I was going to have to do that, but it just was different than what we've been doing. We've been doing stuff where you just pick up the book, you read the next lesson, you might do an activity or a notebooking page. Like, it just was a little more cut and dry. This gave me too many choices, and I'm the type of person where I can't have too many choices on a daily basis because I need my homeschool day to kind of flow like clockwork. And so this was a little different for us. So that was a challenge for sure. And if I wanted to put the time in at the end of a week, planning for the week ahead, I could do that. Or sometimes I just kind of jump on my computer in the morning, look at that day and see what we want to do and then go from there. So that was a challenge for me, I'm going to say, was that planning aspect. You also, if you like to track progress, you might find this a little hard too. There's obviously no tests and quizzes and stuff. Now on the elementary level, I don't think a lot of us are worried about that. If you're doing stuff on the high school level, you might want to, I'm not sure what their high school geography looks like, but that might be a consideration, like how do you track their progress? Even for this, it's a little bit like, how do I know she's learned where the countries are, or she really has kind of like picked up what she needs to for the geography? We're doing a lot of notebooking alongside of the books we're reading. So, generally that's usually fine for elementary years, although she's right at the edge. She's like 6th grade. So she probably could have gone either way. I'm almost wondering if she could have done the more challenging geography, like the next level up, because this is for like all of your elementary kids. And if you're doing lots of kids together, that's a huge plus to be able to do this subject with all of them. So anyway, the tracking the progress might be an issue. Some of you, this might be tricky with overspending because you might see all the books listed and you go buy them all. That's not necessary. You can find them at the library. You can find them on eBay. You can find them fairly cheaply if you look around. You don't have to do everything. Obviously, YouTube videos are free. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to save money. But for some of you, a curriculum like this is going to challenge your spending. And then, some kids might not appreciate the lack of structure. Some kids, that's going to bother, that they don't know each day what they're doing. Some kids need to know a routine every day of like, when we do geography, this is what I'm doing. And because it's a buffet, every day might be quite different of what you decide to do. So some kids might have a harder time with that. So those are some of the challenges. Now let's talk about some tips for overcoming these challenges, because they don't have to stop you from using the curriculum, but I just want you to know like what some of the challenges might be. So now let's talk about tips. Okay, so I have 4 tips for you. Number 1, set clear goals. I think if you know what your goal is with using this curriculum, you'll be just fine. So if you want your child to be exposed to all these different countries and cultures and learn kind of where they are on the map, and just get an appreciation for the food from different countries. Like my daughter's doing recipes and we're using a cookbook that they recommended. So we're cooking foods from different countries. That was a motivating factor for her. So if the motivating factor is love of learning, exposure, and various using different types of learning through video, through hands-on, through living books, if that's your goal, that's fine. You need to know what your goal is. So those of you who are used to a really strict textbook approach, this is going to be foreign to you. So you need to make sure you define what do you want to achieve with using this curriculum, and then you'll be fine. So set those goals. Next tip is to start small. Don't think you have to buy every book they recommend or do everything they list in a week, like I said. Start small and then add to it as you feel comfortable. Maybe start with a key book and videos, or whatever fits your kids, right? Maybe you're just going to do the living book, and then you're going to start with just the book, the main chapter book, or whatever. Like, pick what you're going to do. And then as you feel comfortable, you can add some more things as you go. You also need to plan ahead. That's tip number 3. I've already mentioned, like, this is going to take a little more planning than you might be used to. You need to figure out your own framework, your own schedule. How long every day do you want to work on this? How many different activities a day do you want, or per week? If you're teaching multiple kids with this, that's going to be different than it is for me with just one child using this curriculum. So set clear goals, start small, plan ahead. And number 4, reassess regularly. You know that I love a mid-year reassess. You might need to do it even more often, but go ahead and periodically review what's working, what's not working. It's okay to make changes. It's okay if it's not working. You might need to change how you're using it. So those are my tips for overcoming the challenges. Now let's move on to the benefits of this kind of approach. Okay, there are definite benefits for using a buffet style approach, which is what you're getting with this Guest Hollows Junior Geography and Cultures curriculum. So number 1, it's very easy to customize and personalize. Obviously, if your kid loves the hands-on, then you're going to dive into those options that they suggest that are hands-on, that are crafts, and that are making things, that are making the recipes. Or, your child loves to read, you're going to get all the books, and you're going to get the chapter books, and you're just going to be enjoying the reading aspect. Your child is a visual learner, your child is kinesthetic. Like, go with what is their strength and what will fuel that passion and that love of learning. Customize it for your kids. This also goes with customize it for you as the homeschool parent, right? So you know what your level of ability and stress and ability to handle chaos is. So if you are the type of parent that cannot stand a messy art project every day or every week, then just don't suggest that you do the messy art project. Just go ahead and don't even tell your kids that's an option. So you have to go with customizing it for you and your kids. Number 2, another great benefit is it's super flexible. So you miss a day, you can mix and match. You don't have as much time today, that's fine. Just do the bare minimum, decide what that is for you guys. You can adjust as you go. And like I said again, too, as you reassess, something might not be clicking. You can throw out that resource and grab a different one from their list. So it's very flexible, and that's awesome. Another really good benefit is it encourages that interest-driven learning. So like I said, I had a kid that would have loved this years ago because he did it on his own anyway. He would sit on Google Maps and he would drop himself in different countries, walk around the streets, see what it was like. That's a lot of fun, and they actually have links to that in the curriculum as well. Now, my daughter who's using it, that doesn't interest her. But certain kids, that's like the best thing ever. They feel like they're visiting that country. So you can totally encourage that interest-driven learning and that love of learning through using the resources that you think will fuel that passion in your kids. The other good benefit of using a buffet style is you have a variety of materials that you can use that will help you with learning styles, and it gives you diverse ways of learning, right? So your kinesthetic learners are being challenged, your visual learners, however they need to get the information, you can adjust it and use those materials that fit them. That's in contrast where if you had a textbook-based curriculum, it's kind of for one kid, and not everyone does well with that. So this is the benefit of using a buffet style. You can make it make it work for your kids. You can address their strengths and weaknesses, kind of the same type of thought. Cost control is really good here. Like in the challenges, I said you could spend a ton of money if this is challenging for you and you think you need to buy everything. But this is also a good way to save a lot of money because it's not expensive to buy the curriculum plan from Guest Hollow. And then you can find the resources at the library for free. You can find them fairly cheaply. So you really could teach a bunch of kids with this curriculum. You don't have consumables that you're going to have to repurchase or that you have to buy for everyone. And you can go ahead, and it's very cost effective to teach one kid or to teach 5 kids using this material. I love that it's real world learning opportunities because you've got the life skills, you've got the cooking, like my daughter loves that. You've got hands-on projects. So you have a lot of practical things that your kids can learn and not just the textbook. Let me read what the textbook says. I think you could encourage independent learning with this type of curriculum. Depends on the age of your child and the resources you pick, because like I said, it might take a little more parent involvement than you're used to. It depends, right? So if I was years ago teaching this to all my little elementary kids, I obviously know I'm going to be putting a lot more of my time and effort into working through the resources with them. I guess what tripped me up is my sixth grader is highly independent in so many things, and this took a little bit more from me than I was used to. So I think it depends on your kids, their maturity level, and their level of responsibility. But you know what? You can accommodate unique schedules with this. This is very flexible. They give you enough for a whole school year worth of studying a different culture or area of the world every week. And if you have a week where you just can't get to a lot of stuff, it's okay. You can just do the bare minimum, or you can deep dive and do so many things every week. It just really depends on you and your kids. So these are just some of the benefits of a buffet style learning approach, which is what you will get from Guest Hollow. When you purchase Guest Hollow's curriculum, you'll receive all the lists you need, and then you can plan ahead what books you want to use, what videos, what resources you need, what supplies, all of that stuff. Here's an example of their one-page quick view book and resource list. So you can go through and say, oh, we already own these. Check with your library. Which ones do they have? Can you borrow? Obviously, you don't need them all, so you can pick and choose what works for you. But that's what I'm trying to show you. That's very living book based. It's not textbook based. So this goes really well with a Charlotte Mason type homeschool, even a classical homeschool. We would consider ourselves eclectic. I don't really want to sit here with the geography textbook in elementary school. So if that's the kind of style you like, you really will love Guest Hollow. Here's a quick flip through of some of the books we decided to purchase from that huge list. We noticed that the atlas would probably be good. I mean, it covers everything from where the population is to the geography that you expect when you're learning geography. So we use this book quite often, so we thought this would be a good one to purchase as one of the main spines of our studies here. But then there are some other ones from the list that looked really great. Prisoners of Geography really focuses in on how your geography shapes your history and your culture and your economy and everything. So as a former geography teacher for middle school, I thought this was a great book. It's beautiful too. So this was a win for us. We decided to get this one. It really is a lot more critical thinking of how geography plays into everything. And then this was kind of just a unique one of, the obscure things in the world, which these are the kind of things that make studying geography interesting, right? If you just narrow in on where is everyone located in the world, that can get boring for some kids, but when you add this interesting stuff, it tends to engage them more. Let me show you what a week inside Guest Hollow's Junior Geography and Cultures curriculum looks like. So when you purchase this curriculum, you're purchasing the plan. You're purchasing the weekly plan that's laid out for your kids to learn about all the different countries of the world. And this is more than just where is it on the map, geography. This is culture and art and music and reading living books. It's basically a big buffet, and you choose what you want your kids to do. Now, here is an example, and then we'll talk about also the pros and the cons and how to really get the most out of this plan. But here's what it will look like. I used to print them out at the beginning, but then I thought, why am I doing this? Because I actually just want to open it up on my computer and then be able to click these links because they're hyperlinked, obviously, and that makes it a lot easier. So in week 11, the topic was Western Europe, and at the top, you can see what you're studying that week and the specific countries. Now here's your plan for day one. There's also one more page I'll show you. So there's usually 2 pages of resources every week. But obviously it's very flexible. If you don't have 5 days of school this week and you want to stay weekly, like either you could push day 5 to next week, or I find that a little confusing. So we just try to, cover what we need to during the days we have school that week. Now, at the beginning of the resource, there are lots of nonfiction books, fiction books, optional reference books. There's all sorts of resources listed. You do not have to get them all. And we got a few to start with. And then as we progressed, we realized, I actually want to get something else that keeps coming up. So it's up to you. So you're not going to have all of these resources to read unless you want to. So for example, during our week 11, when we did this, we have the Where on Earth Atlas. So this specific week, because it was Western Europe, there was a lot to read about. And every day my daughter read about it. We did a notebooking page on our own, or maybe even continued the notebooking page for the whole week and added to it. But that's what we did. So we read the Where on Earth Atlas, and then we also picked up the Prisoners of Geography, which you can tell is only 3 times that week. Some weeks it might be 0. Some weeks it might be 1. It just all depends. I mean, you could read the Where Is books. They come up a lot. You can have your child continuing to read fiction books that go along with it. We haven't done these, but like I said, it's all up to you. So we start with our books. What do we need to read? And then if you do have younger kids that want to kind of do similar to what their older siblings are doing, they always give you a resource for that. Now, after the section on books, you'll notice that there are links to games, which are online, map printables, and videos to help your child memorize where these countries are. I have mixed feelings about these. I actually like the idea of physical maps, but we have not done them. We've generally done the online maps. I think if I was homeschooling and using this resource 10 years ago when I had 4 kids using it at the same time, we would definitely have done the map printables, maybe added the games for some extra fun. But I find myself homeschooling a little differently with just one child going through this. But for whatever it's worth, it seems to be working. We'll choose which games we want to play that week. Sometimes I haven't really worried about, do we need to know the cities of Germany? Now your child might love that. It just was a little much for us. We were mainly focused on the countries. We did sometimes do landforms and that kind of thing, but we would do our games. Sometimes I would maybe pull the printable up on the computer so she could do the quizzes while looking at the map and then do them over and over again without looking at the map. So to kind of ease her into it throughout the week. And then if you wanted to have a map and geography workbook, that your child completes, they also include, if that's in part of the plan this week, they will include that. Here's the second page of resources for Guest Hollows week 11. So this is something that we really enjoyed this year, was the recipe book, Cooking Class Global Feast. And so my daughter she was sold on this plan of doing geography because she was told she could cook and make recipes from around the world. So we check this out and see what we want to make this week. They do include lots of hands-on things if you want to get into the art. Google Earth is a lot of fun. My daughter doesn't necessarily do it, but I have had some of my older kids. If we would have done this 10 years ago, one of my kids would have been on Google Earth all day. So that's a lot of fun for some kids. There's also things with music. If you want to incorporate that, you can listen to it. You could play this in the background. You can play them just to listen to as you're studying geography. And then there are videos, which of course, like I said, if you just pull this up on your computer, you can click right on it. It'll take you over to YouTube. So you can decide what to use and what not to use. If you're homeschooling a really young child, a 25-minute video on Europe might be a little much. But then again, if you have someone on the older age, like 6th grader, like we have, we can handle that. And that's actually really good. So you can decide what you want to play and what you want to skip. So like I said, it's a 2-page buffet set out for you every week. You pick and choose and decide what fits best for your kids and your homeschooling style, your budget, what books you want to buy or borrow, and what kind of geography style you want to use in your homeschool. There's a tiny bit of a learning curve, as there is with any curriculum, but if you just figure out how to use the resources that you are given, it'll make a lot of sense. So I wanted to show you, for example, on week 11 that we looked at, they give you a full supply list. So if you want to look ahead and decide, do I have everything I need to make this recipe, the craft, the hands-on activities, the art projects, like you can look ahead and plan for that. So if you want to plan a semester ahead, a month ahead, the whole year, they give you really great lists to make everything user-friendly and easy on mom. Now, this cookbook recommendation is, I think, the thing that sold my daughter on this course, because it seemed like a really fun idea to make recipes from around the world as we studied the countries, and it really has been a lot of fun. We haven't done as much as maybe we should have, but she, as you can see, she had a lot of fun doing it in the kitchen and just getting her hands into it. And I'm going to admit, I loved having some food made. Sometimes dinner was made and I didn't have to worry about it. It was a lot of fun for all of us to try out her recipes. I hope this review was helpful as you look to see if Guest Hollow would be a good fit for your homeschool. Thanks for joining us, and in the meantime, happy homeschooling!